Microphone check 1 2. I'm waiting on a bing, man. Waiting on the bing. All right. What time is it? It is. What time is it? 2:48. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 2:48. I'm on early today because I've been busy all week. Not feeling well all week. And I wanted to get this third part of the replicated Tyrone on the books. I want to say this, though. Again, I can go into the analytics and see who've watched what I've said and who haven't watched it. I get a whole lot of likes, but truth be told, according to the analytics, there's about 3 seconds of view time, 3 minutes of view time. And, like I said, I'm going to keep doing what God has commissioned me to do. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it with joy in my heart and hopes that he will find pleasure in what I've done thus far. But I am concerned that we don't listen to anything. I am concerned that we take what we hear and either we take offense to it or we apply it to our lives in a way that doesn't make much sense, that justifies our actions so that we don't have to be held accountable for anything. I'm very concerned about that because we're losing our attention span, and it's by design. So today I want to talk about several things that are by design as we close out part 3, the ignorance of Tyrone, the fearlessness of Fontaine. And did either of these qualities actually benefit the bottom line, which is the salvation of an ignorant people? As I stated in the last part 2, at the end of the movie, nothing was solved. Nothing was resolved in the movie. They found the underground area where things were being tested. But at the end of the movie, it was still just a bunch of ignorant Negroes walking around with no plan on how they were going to prevent this from happening again, how they were going to investigate to see if it was happening in other places, because as you saw in LA, it was happening there too. And that's why the movie ended with, "Hey, ain't that you, Tyrone?" So we're going to go into some government experiments today. Hopefully they won't cut me off. It's storming outside. It is 2:51, so I'm asking you to give me an hour and I'll be done. Going to talk a little slow today. We're also going to be using some explicit examples, but I'm going to try to not use the actual profanity. Okay, so our ability, unfortunately, to listen has been disrupted. We don't like to listen. We don't like to analyze. Therefore, we're becoming a very ignorant people, where it seems as if though we're rising, we're actually devolving. As I stated in part 1, by 2053, economists have estimated that the Black economy will be at a zero advancement state, and it's there already. We just, because of credits and loans, it looks as if though we're advancing, but we're getting in deep debt. So part 3, the ignorance of Tyrone, the fearlessness of Fontaine. We will be right back. Thank y'all for tuning in on Instagram. We have 3 Facebook pages up: The 19 Report, The Music Man, and Jamil Salib Zamir. We're on Instagram, as always, under Johnny Wilson. We're on YouTube at The 19 Report, as well as on Twitter at The 19 Report. So I ask that you like and share this. I pray that the day will come, by Almighty God's permission, that we will be able to calm down. All of my children were raised on documentary films. All of my children were raised on being able to look at a documentary from beginning to end and grasp out of a documentary, even though it wasn't entertaining. It's unfortunate that we only can look at things from an entertaining perspective and try to take out of that something of value. You must be able to sit and listen at least for an hour, read for an hour, try to comprehend for an hour, meditate for an hour. These short bursts of ignorance is what is destroying us. And you think this is a game. You think this is a joke. You think that you're able to overcome the situation that we're in, but you're not. You have nothing but credit and consumerism. Nothing. No college degree, no nothing. That degree, I will not diminish it. It is very important. We need our educated class, but you take this education and you go look for a job. You make nothing. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for tuning in to this month installment of the 19 Report. I am your host, Brother Johnny. I walked a thin line between right and wrong. Took my fears to God, then I wrote this song. The spirit kept calling, so I answered the phone. And then I manned up and got some backbone. My mind resonates at a much higher tone. Solid foundation, empire zone. 3 mountains, I'm in one. Right to left counted, 9 and then 1. Left to right, switch it, 1 and then 9. West to east, south to north, a thin line. I know Christ exists, cause his mercy allows me a chance to stand 3 on a square. Yeah, we in there. This is Brother Johnny of Groove 19 Promotions.
Thank you. His mercy allows me to stand 3 on a square. How is it that a circle and a square are both the same? We're going to go in deep today. Pay close attention. I thank everyone for tuning in. This is Jamil Salib Zamir out of Manning, South Carolina. We will be coming back out of Silent Weapons for Quiet War. Again, this is a document that was presented, found, and it's been fact-checked, and it is true. So we're going to go in that today. I'm going to go into a secret experiment that the government said they didn't do. We'll see. I think it was done. So I'm going to go into that for a minute, and then we're going to move on. And I ask you for your patience today because I'm going to be cool today. We are 6 minutes in. All right, let's get into this thing. Part 3, the ignorance of Tyrone, the fearlessness of Fontaine. Did the ignorance help our situation? Did the fearlessness help our situation? I'm going to read you something about a general out of Africa, Idi Amin. But I want to do this first. For those of you on last week when I was reading out of the Silent Weapons for Quiet War, I want to read this out of The Guardian. The title of it is "The Air Force Looked at Spray to Turn Enemies Gay." And I'm going to read this quote: "Make love, not war, be the enduring slogan of anti-war campaigners. But in 1994, the U.S. Army produced its own variation on the philosophy." 1994. What if it could release a chemical that would make an opposing army soldiers think more about the physical attributes of their comrades in arms than the threat posed by the enemy? And thus the gay bomb was born. The gay bomb was born. Far from being the product of conspiracy theorists, documents released to the biological weapons watchdog in Austin, Texas, confirms that the U.S. military did investigate the idea. It was included in a CD-ROM produced by U.S. military in 2000 and submitted to the National Academy of Science in 2002. How many of you know that in Washington, D.C., they have a war college? That war college is played on a chessboard, a grand chessboard. The pieces are moved, the pawns, the kings, the knights, all of that on the board. How to attack, how to maneuver, how long-term warfare, quiet weapons for silent war, silent weapons for quiet war. All of these things are played out in the war college. And you must be very educated to be on the grounds of the war college. In 2000, they submitted to the National Academy of Science in 2002. The documents showed that $7.5 million was requested to develop the weapon. The documents released to the Sunshine Project under a Freedom of Information request titled "Harassing, Annoying, and Bad Guy Identifying Chemicals" include several proposals for the military use of chemicals that could be sprayed onto the enemy's position. One distasteful but not lethal example would be strong aphrodisiacs, especially if the chemical also caused homosexual behavior, says the proposal from the Air Force Wright Laboratory in Daytona, Ohio. When I talk about chemicals, when they showed the powder in They Cloned Tyrone and how it changed the mind of people, when you take this as a joke, then it becomes entertainment. And when you take it as entertainment, you think there's no validity in it. But certain people at certain times, when they make a covenant with Satan, they must tell you the truth. And by telling you the truth, that prolongs their time to continue doing what they're doing, because we're in such a doped up state of thinking that we're so happy and we're so euphoric that we don't think any of the things that are being shown to us can actually be performed or inflicted upon us like it is in the movies. That's not the word I was looking for. But I'm reading you a government document released by the Freedom of Information Act, and y'all should check that out. Y'all should request information from the Freedom of Information Act. Although a lot of the names and stuff will be blacked out, you have a legal right to have this information in your possession. You can do that with a court case. You can go down to the police station and request a copy of a murder case. Although some of the images, some of the names and stuff will be blacked out, the general investigation, in some cases, you'll be able to get those documents. I know. I have a lot of them. I have a lot of documents on murder cases. I know some of them could have been solved. I know some of them couldn't be solved. But you can request this information if you have the intelligence to do so. So this gay bomb, $7.5 million. And I read in part one that Zbigniew Brzezinski, with national councilman for Jimmy Carter, and also the puppet master for Barack Obama, stated, and I quote, "There was a time when it was easier to fool 1 million people. There was a time when you could fool 1 million. But today it is easier to kill 1 million people than it is to fool 1 million people." So they are no longer trying to trick the masses of the people. They've started a campaign on how to eliminate people. And many of you don't know about the Georgia Guidestones. The Georgia Guidestone talks about how many people should populate the earth and what should be done about it. But the craziest thing happened last year. Somebody blew up the Georgia Guidestones. The picture that I saw, it didn't look like they actually blew up the Guidestones. It looked like some fabricated something, but you will no longer be able to see what's on the Georgia Guidestones without going to the internet. We're talking about the ignorance of Tyrone, the fearlessness of Fontaine, and does fearlessness make a difference when there's nothing else backing fearlessness? So we're going to go into more of the Freedom of Information Act released information about the quiet war. But I want to read this to you first. This is coming out of the Encyclopedia Britannica. And I'm reading this because of what happened in Alabama with the young man and the other people who defended the other black man, which I think was a great gesture. I think it was a great thing to do that. I don't think any of them should be prosecuted for any reason whatsoever. But my fear about that is that we get so caught up in one incident that we think we're free. So you see ignorant comments like we are not our ancestors. You're right about that. You're not, because your ancestors were fighting for their life, their livelihood, their religion, their culture, their God, their freedom, their families, and they were killing slave owners, murdering them justifiably, not hitting them with chairs. So yeah, you're right. You're not us and you're not them. But you're not going to disrespect them because you're ignorant and too lazy to read a book in thinking that because you here, we didn't fight. If it wasn't for the fight of the ancestors, your lazy, drugged out, college educated, homosexual behind wouldn't be able to do the things that you do without being ridiculed or persecuted. So stop with the disrespect of we are not our ancestors. You're damn right you're not. You're nowhere near it, because you're humble around other races, even though they stole everything from you. Your language, your knowledge of self, where you're from, who you are, who is your God, how to worship God, how to think about God, how to pray to God, how to see God. They took your God and gave you a white Christ. Christ is not God. Christ was not Caucasian. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and many other prophets and messengers were white, but not Jesus. He did not speak English. He was not born in America. He was born in the East. He spoke ancient Aramaic. If he came back today with his white robe and kufi on and started to speak to you in Arabic, you would run. So no, you are not your ancestors. You don't qualify for that position because you're crazy and educated and ignorant and high and selfish. No. What happened in Alabama is nothing compared to what happened in Charleston, South Carolina with Denmark Vesey and Gullah Jack. Nothing compared to what happened with Nat Turner. What happened to Jean-Jacques Dessalines. How the Haitian people ran the British out of Haiti. The British owe Haiti billions of dollars to this day, and they will not pay it back. The only country, the only place that freed themselves of colonialism is Haiti. And that's why they go through so much. But you don't study, so you think that the Haitian Revolution and Haitian people are just ignorant. The Japanese own Jamaica. I don't care how much weed they smoke. Irie Rastafari. I don't care. They are not using their intelligence or their finances to control the country. Japan owns the airlines. Japan owns the airport. Look it up for yourself. The ignorance of Tyrone, the fearlessness of Fontaine. Did it change our condition? I want to read you something about Idi Amin. Idi Amin, the Dada. Some of you say Don Dada. That Dada, that's Idi Amin. There's even somebody named Papa Doc that we'll talk about one day. Idi Amin died August 16, 2003, a member of the small Kakwa ethnic group of northwestern Uganda. Amin had little formal education and joined the King African Rifles of the British colonial army in 1946, and as an assistant cook, although he came from being a cook. Although he claimed to have fought in Burma during World War II, his military records showed that his service began in 1946. Here's the thing. He quickly rose to the rank, and he served in the British action against the Mau Mau revolt in Kenya. He went against the Mau Mau, Jomo Kenyatta and the Mau Mau. Amin was one of the few Ugandan soldiers elevated to officer rank before Ugandan independence in 1962. I'm coming to a point. And he became closely associated with the new nation's prime minister and president, Milton Obote. He was made chief of the Army and Air Force in 1966 to 1970. Conflicted with Obote arose. However, on January 25th, 1971, Amin staged a successful military coup. Now check this out. Check out what Idi Amin did. And I want to put this right to the background of what happened in Alabama, of you ignorant folk talking about you are not your ancestors, and how you think violence is going to put us in some position of power and freedom. But violence in ignorance and violence without a workable plan is just violence. And that's all it is. And you will talk about that violence until you get bored and look for the next violence. Amin ruled directly, shunning the delegating powers. He was noted for his abrupt change of mood from buffoonery to shrewdness, from gentleness to tyranny. He was often extreme in his nationalism. He expelled all Asians from Uganda in 1972, an action that led to the breakdown of Uganda's economy, and he publicly insulted Great Britain and the United States, as well as numerous world leaders. Because he did that, Idi Amin ran out the educated class of Asians who brought business and commerce, and all of the military soldiers who fought to get them out. It looked good on the screen that the black man took his spot back, but he was ignorant and didn't know how to run business, so the country went into deeper default, deeper degradation, because there was no one there intelligent enough to raise a civilized society. So can a fearless person who angry and ain't afraid to fight and do what they want to do benefit the majority of a civilized society? In The Godfather, last part, the Godfather, who played by Al Pacino, his nephew wanted to be in a position of power in the family. And Al Pacino, the Godfather, said to him, "For what? I don't need any more strong armed soldiers. They come a dime a dozen. I need intelligent people. I need lawyers. I need businessmen. You just want to kill." What changed in They Cloned Tyrone at the end of the movie? See, they put a battle in front of you, and by the time you neglect the battle that you were fighting, which was prostitution, drug addiction, and pimping, and false religion, you have to leave that, go fight a bigger battle. And after you finish that battle, you're so happy that you finished, but what are you coming back to? You're coming back to the same situation that was there before. And that's the illusion that Satan puts before us. He puts a battle before us that we fight so long that we think we're free, but we're not. We're talking about part 3, the ignorance of Tyrone, the fearlessness of Fontaine, and we're going back into silent weapons for quiet wars. We are 21 minutes in. Give me an hour. I'm going to try my best to read as fast as possible. We have 2 parts of this already up on the internet, so you can go check that out. But I want to start right here, and I'm reading verbatim out the book. The title of this portion of the book, and if you want to know what the book is, Silent Weapons for Quiet War, look it up. Diversion. These are the plans put in place to keep the people docile. I'm going to read as quickly as I possibly can. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Jamil Salib Zamir, Manning, South Carolina. I came on the slide on this one because I didn't want anyone to know I was coming on. It started raining, so I came inside. Thank you all for tuning in. Diversion, the primary strategy. The primary strategy of keeping the people ignorant is to divert their attention. Check this out. I don't think I need my glasses for this. Take them off for a minute. Experience has proven that the simplest method of securing a silent weapon and gaining control of the public is to keep the public undisciplined and ignorant of basic system principles on the one hand, while keeping them confused, disorganized, and distracted with matters of no real importance on the other hand. The Alabama incident, no real importance at all. This is achieved by, check this out, check out the strategy: disengaging their minds, sabotaging their mental activities, providing a low-quality program of public education in mathematics, logic, system design, and economics, and discouraging technical creativity, engaging their emotions, increasing their self-indulgence and their indulgence in emotional and physical activities. All of this done in They Cloned Tyrone. Give them drugs, give them coochie, and give them religion. And give them the vain idea of looking better by using chemicals in their hair and on their body, and use all of these avenues to divert their attention and use the tools to fight a silent war against the ignorant. 2, engage their emotions, increase their self-indulgence and their indulgence in emotional and physical activities by A, unrelenting emotional affrontations and attacks, mental and emotional rape. I told y'all that the black man was raped, not raped physically, but mentally and emotionally. And that process was continued on in our family structure by family members getting more money, advancing in their education, and looking down on the other family members when we were all once family. And they think because they accepted religion or some religion, or they got some money or something others don't have, that they are better than the rest of the family. This is all by design. I said in part 1, part 2, by God's permission, we have no original thought. None. Unrelenting emotional affrontation and attacks, mental and emotional rape, by way of constant barrage of sex, violence, and wars in the media, especially the TV and the newspapers. Giving them what they desire. You desire to be high, drunk, out of your mind, confused, so they make marijuana legal. And as I stated earlier with the gay bomb, which is a on the books thing that was talked about, they're now placing those chemicals in the marijuana. You think they're just going to give you a good time without control? It's in the food, the fake food. Everything that's good got a bad component in it. We're going to talk about, there's a orange juice that's on the market that's 100% guaranteed, literally, that you are going to grow cancer cells in your body if you drink it. Unrelenting emotional affrontation and attacks mental and emotional rape by way of constant barrage of sex, violence, and wars in media, especially the TV and the newspaper, giving them what they desire in excess, in quotation. Give it to them in excess. Junk food for thought, and depriving them of what they really need. Rewriting history. I told you about Governor Santos and the woke movement and the critical race theory. See, everybody done stopped talking about it because they think because they talked about it and everybody liked their post that they're done. They've done their job. So they sit waiting for the next thing to happen so they can talk about that, but not involved in anything, not going outside of the realms of offending their white buddies. Every race can fight for themselves except for us. I was riding with a Grand Master in Masonry, a white gentleman from Philadelphia who invited me somewhere last night. And boy, he used that N-word, white guy, used that N-word relentlessly as a test to see if I would get emotional about it. I didn't get emotional, but I used examples to him about redneck and cracker and other words that are offensive to other races, and balanced that out real good. Got to the point where I was invited to his home and he showed me all of his guns, and you know, I got one here, 35 guns all throughout his house, 35. I said, oh, that's good. Yeah, we're taught to do that too. I like the guy because anyone that challenges my courage and my mental capabilities, I like. But they're rewriting history. And I told him, I said, you are a high-ranking Mason. He looked at me. He had no ring or nothing on because we were at a Masonic lodge and I saw the way he entered the building and the way he entered the secret chambers. I knew he was. I said, so you know what's going on. I'll tell you more about that later. Let's get back to this. Rewriting history and law and subjecting the public to deviant creation. Deviant creation. Deviant creation, all by design, all of the things we love to do. Now, I knew people who were homosexual all their lives. They never promoted it, never flaunted it. We went on trips together. We did everything together. No offense. We just love hanging together. Those are my people. But now they're subjecting the public to deviant creations. And the LGBT community is a gang. And they have mastered areas of power where they can shut down anything that they don't agree with. Beyonce is the key to that, and Barack Obama are the key to that. Thus, being able to shift their thinking from personal needs to highly fabricated outside priorities. So our needs and our desires are being shifted from family, community, self, to situations we can do nothing about. So all of y'all just posting up Alabama. Y'all wasn't in Alabama. Y'all didn't do it. Y'all wasn't involved in it. That's like somebody snatching a chain and you posting it up. We're talking about solid weapons for quiet war. These precludes their interest in and discover the solid weapons of social automation technology. So that is what's being used, automation. I told you in the beginning on part one that this was a blueprint for how to build and maintain Boeing aircrafts, and they used this blueprint for Boeing on society because we are mechanics and automation will control us. And you're thinking that you're in control. I'm just so holy, so righteous. They're feeding you this. And you will not look outside of the confounds of what you're being told to find the truth. You don't even pray to God for the truth. You just believe that what you got is the truth. The ignorance of Tyrone. Tyrone believed he was the only Tyrone. He believed that. But there are millions of Tyrones. Some of us believe we so hard and tough that nobody can stop us. But I told you in my commentary, by God's permission, on the handwriting on the wall, that the person who gonna kill you is the person closest to you, because they gonna get tired of your BS. That person who's closest to you gonna screw your girl because they're gonna see what you do in the street and know you not home, and gonna come to your house and tell your woman exactly what you're doing. And as payback, she gonna open her legs to your buddy. This is gonna happen. And it's gonna happen in the churches too, because the ministers are out there cheating too. And they second in command going to come to the wife. I've been through an experience like that. I've been with a guy who was the head minister, and his wife called me years ago, and I could have slept with her, but I did not. And he got angry with me. The general rule is that there is profit in confusion. The more confusion, the more profit. Therefore, the best approach is to create problems, then offer the solution. The problem will be the addiction to this newly found crack, vegetated crack called weed. They have another movie coming out about fentanyl on Netflix. They are including what is it? The drug that stops with a fentanyl overdose in the school system. Because the key to keeping people ignorant is to give them excessive. You got excessive parties, excessive religion, excessive concerts, excessive drugs, excessive working. Don't get to enjoy nothing, just got a bunch of stuff. I ride by people's houses with their boat covered up, their motorcycles covered up, their car covered up, and they home one day a week because they're constantly on the road thinking that later on they'll be able to enjoy life. There is no later on. Today is the only promise. Part 3, the ignorance of Tyrone. It is 32 minutes in. I'm going to take my time because unfortunately you're not listening anyway, but it'll be out there. Someone's going to hear it. It'll be out there. Diversion summary. Media. Keep the adult public attention diverted away from the real social issues and captivated by matters of no real importance. Schools. Keep the young public ignorant of real mathematics, real economics, real law, and real history. Entertainment. Keep the public entertained below a 6th grade level. Work. Keep the public busy, busy, busy with no time to think, back on the farm with the other animals. I go to churches and they say, they're trying to put us back on the farm. And I'm always saying, man, you're already back on the farm. You don't do nothing but work. That's all you do. And leave all of your hard work to children who could care less about you because they ain't like their ancestors. They know how to spend money and have fun. And when they ain't got no cause to fight, they'll fight each other. When they ain't got no enemy to kill, they kill each other. It's happening right here. Most of these people who are dead in Clarendon County were killed by somebody they know. I know it. I got the paperwork. It wasn't no outsider that did it. Somebody they know. I'm almost done. We're talking about Part 3, the ignorance of Tyrone, the fearlessness of Fontaine, and if any of this ignorance or fearlessness changed the condition, and it didn't. We also in solid weapons for quiet war. A government seized a document it is now in the Freedom of Information Act. It is a plan that was developed from engineer who was engineering planes and realized that he could use these same engineering techniques to control society. And that's what They Cloned Tyrone was about. And also I mentioned that you should look at The King of Clones on Netflix. It's a documentary because they cloned us. They replicated the conditions. And no matter how well you fix up a community, if the minds of the people are not improved, then the community will go down here. Proof of that is Westwood Apartments. They fixed up the place, but the violence is still there. The ignorance is still there. They could care less that you fixed it up. They could care less who fixed it. They just enjoy it until they tear it apart. That's not everybody, but mostly the young. And unfortunately, the old who are addicted to drugs, marijuana, crack, and anything else, who the young provide with drugs, they're not going to do nothing. They're in a state of suspended animation, can't fight one way or another. Come to church, listen to the preacher tell them it ain't their fault, and go back home and do it again. Silent weapons for quiet war in this connection to the ignorance of Tyrone. They cloned Tyrone and the fearlessness of Fontaine. Let's go into amplification energy sources. The next step in the process of designing an economy amplifier is discovering the energy source. The energy source, which supports any primitive economic system, are of course supply of raw materials and the consent of the people to labor and consequently assume a certain rank position, level, or class in the social structure, i.e. to provide labor of various levels in the peaking order. Each class, listen to this, each class in guaranteeing its own level of income controls the class immediately below it. Hence, preserve the class structure. This provides stability and security, but also government from the top. At this time, as time goes on and communication and education improve, listen, the lower class elements of social labor structures become knowledgeable and envious of the good things that the upper class members have. Sounds familiar? They also begin to maintain a knowledge of energy systems and the ability to enforce their rise through the class structure. They selling drugs. I can sell drugs. They into politics doing political crime. I can do that. They in the church hustling the people. I can do that. They finally find out a way to get rich like the upper class, and they disregard the feelings of the class that they came from in hopes that they will rise. They clone Tyrone. Check this out. This threatens the sovereignty of the elite. If this rise of the lower class can be postponed long enough, the elite can achieve energy dominance, and the labor of consent no longer will hold a position. What this means is that if we can stave them off long enough, if we can keep the people ignorant long enough that they will not call on a higher source because they are ignorant to God, ignorant to themselves, ignorant to education, to economics, to mathematics, if we can keep them ignorant by entertaining them long enough, we will create a stranglehold on society that they can't break. And the only person that can break that stranglehold is God himself, of whom they will never know because they never asked God, who are you? They just assume that it's that white picture that they were given. Jesus never said he was God. Detroit, Michigan is an experiment. Look at what they did to Detroit. Philadelphia, look at what they did to Philly. Baltimore, look at what they did to Baltimore. These are all experiments. And it's coming to South Kiss here already. They got gated communities. I was in one last night, half the night. I was invited in. I was given the code to the gate. I was a guest. I saw things that most of you will never see in your lifetime. I've seen it before, but I saw it here last night. I talk to people in power mentally. They don't listen. They're different. So is breaking up an underground attempt to destroy black folks going to save us? No. It was entertainment. That's what it was for. And that's what it did. It entertained us. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I know this is difficult to listen to. We're 39 minutes in. We got about 20 minutes left, 30, 40, 50, 60, 30 minutes left, 20 minutes. Now I want to go into the artificial womb, because this is where women come into play and why they are promoting women into power. Women have always been in power. I was talking to the gentleman last night, and he said this stuff they're trying to do with the inclusion and all. We've always been that way, Johnny. That's what he called me, Johnny, because he talks that way, Philly. We've always been that way, Johnny. We've always been around people who were different. We never treated them different. Facts. I used to party in a place called the Tunnel in New York. In the Tunnel, It was a unisex bathroom. Men and women went to the same bathroom. They snorted coke in there. They smoked weed in there. Women would urinate right in front of you, stand up, urinating. Men would pull out their wee-wee in front of women and urinate. They had sex in there. If you know about the tunnel, you know what I'm talking about. They had unisex barbershops. All of that stuff was normal. What's being done here now, almost 40 years later, 30 years later, is amazing to me. But for those of you who don't know nothing, don't read nothing, ain't been nowhere, you think this is something spectacular. We've been looking at naked women. We've been looking at people have sex, men and women, girl on girl, boy on boy. That was normal in New York and other places. But they're introducing it to ignorant people who think that these people deserve some type of award for being gay. You deserve some type of award for on the internet showing that you know how to smoke marijuana. The artificial womb, and then we're going to close. From the time a person leaves its mother's womb, this is in the Freedom of Information Act released documents from the government. Silent weapons for quiet war. The artificial womb. From the time a person leaves its mother's womb, its every effort is directed toward building, maintaining, and withdrawing into artificial wombs various sorts of substitute protective devices or shells. So they took this woman, our women, big, small, short, tall, and made them think that their vagina was the key to heaven, which it is to a degree, but taught them like Yo-Yo, and they cloned Tyrone with a pimp how to use their vagina to break the man. So I just was in Columbia last night and I saw a guy at the gas station about to wail on this black girl, and I know it was about a relationship. I wasn't going to get involved with it. One thing we are taught is do not get involved with domestic affairs, because if you protect her from him, she going to bust you in the head. If you protect him from her, he going to bust you in the head. Call the police or whatever and leave it right there. But the strongest men, I got a call from a brother off of Rikers Island, and he told me these guys in here could do time really for real, Jamil, standing on their head. He said, but the main thing that controls them is that their woman is out giving away her vagina. So this is the tool to keep us docile. Drugs, overindulgence, and sex. The objective of these artificial wombs is to provide a stable environment for both stable and unstable activities, to provide a shelter for the evolutionary process of growth and maturity, i.e. survival, to provide security for freedom, and to provide defense protection for offensive activities. This is equality true of both the general public and the elite. However, there is a definite difference in the way each of these classes go about the solutions of problems. I'm going to read this to you and then we're going to close. No, I'm going to read one more thing about responsibility, then we'll go into enforcement. Then we're going to close. I want you to listen to what I'm saying and put all of this up against they clone Tyrone. Responsibilities. Again, most people want to be free to do things, to explore, but they are afraid to fail. The fear of failure is manifested in irresponsibility, and especially in delegating those personal responsibilities to others where success is uncertain or carries possible or created liabilities, law, which the person is not prepared to accept. They want authority, root word author, but they will not accept responsibility or liability. So they hire politicians to face reality for them. This is saying that most of us who engage in wrong always look for someone to take the blame for our wrong because we are afraid of the consequences of failure. Fontaine wasn't afraid of the consequences of failure. Tyrone, another story. But even in his fearlessness of failure, Fontaine was not prepared to do anything if he succeeded. That's why the end of the movie ended so confusing. What now? You can title the end of the movie, What Now? All right, here's the enforcement. This is how we are controlled. Factor one, and we're closing. As an ever social system approaches, stability is achieved only by understanding and accounting for human nature, actions, reactions, and patterns. A failure to do so can be an unusually is disastrous. As in other human social schemes, one form of another of intimidation or incentive is essential to the success of the draft. Physical principles of actions and reactions must be applied to both internal and external subsystems to ensure the draft, to ensure that people will go along with the plan. Individual brainwashing, programming, and both the family unit and the peer group must be engaged and brought under control. The father, check this out. The man of the house must be housebroken to ensure that Junior will grow up with the right social training and attitude. Break the man and you break the children. That advertising, media, etc., are engaged to see to it that father to be is vagina whipped, Pussy whipped. Before or by the time he is married, it is designed that we are whipped by a woman's vagina. And that's why they're dressing our women up as whores with our women won't even go to the mailbox without putting on. They got to wake up 2 hours early from work in order to put on their face. But their lips are painted pink or red like their vagina. They keep their tongue out their mouth like the inside of their vagina. Their nails are colorful. They got rings on and bracelets and tattoos and fake hair. All of this to whip us before we leave our teenage years. As tough as we are, we're whipped by them. That's yo-yo. That's why Fontaine wouldn't believe what the man said, but because he was lacking a mother, he believed what yo-yo said. In fact, they were free and they went back to get the mother. They went back to get yo-yo. He is taught that he either conforms to the social notch cut out for him, or his sex life will be hobbled and his tender championship will be zero. Spike Lee did a movie called Chirac. And in Chirac, because the violence had gotten so violent in Chicago, the mothers band together and agreed not to give the men any sex until they did something about the violence in the city. And they proclaimed no Pussy, no peace. So the mothers were protesting against the husbands. Either you do something or you don't get none of this cha-cha. That's how powerful vagina is. The smell of it when it's natural. Factor 3, the mother. The female element of human society is ruled by emotions first and logic second. That's why our men are killing each other so much, because we're becoming the female. In the battle between logic and imagination, imagination always wins. Fantasy prevails in the female mind. That's why she's always dreaming about these things that she can't afford and thinking that because if she get those things, she will be complete. Her mind is fantasy. Our job is to get her out of that. So we are fighting on every front, and by the time we finish fighting as a man, we tired out. In the battle between logic and imagination, imagination always wins. Fantasy prevails. Maternal instincts dominate so that the child comes first and the future comes second. And that's why mothers are out there helping their children deal drugs, helping their children murder and hiding them. Mothers are involved with that. I got a good boy. I got a good son. He just made a bad choice. This is all by design. A woman with a newborn babies is too starry-eyed to see a wealthy man's cannon fodder or a cheap source of slave labor. Factor 4, Junior. The emotional pressure for self-preservation during the time of war which we are in, and the self-serving attitude of the common herd that have an opinion and option to avoid the battlefield. If Junior can be persuaded to be a man in his own way, that's all the pressure that's finally necessary to propel Junior or Johnny off to war. So we make our children think that they must be gang members. They must be tough. You ain't tough enough. All by design. Factor 5, the sister. And what about Junior's sister? She is given all the good things of life by her father and taught to expect the same from her future husband, regardless of the price. You see the pressure being put on black men We so scared we running. This is all by design. Discombobulate the whole family structure and keep us looking for a small battle that we can win. Now we're all ready to be herded in, the cattle. Those who will not use their brains are no better off than those who have no brains. And so this mindless school of jellyfish, father, mother, son, and daughter, become useful beasts of burden or trainers of the same. I'm going to read that one more time in closing. Those who will not use their brains are no better off than those who have no brain. And so in this mindless school of jellyfish, which was created by a system of control, social programming, father, mother, son, and daughter become useful beasts of burden or trainers of the same. So they're amping up legality of marijuana, legality of all types of drugs, because if you ever show a display of manhood, they want to take that from you. You must be addicted to something. In the Quran, there is a story, a parable, where there was a big army that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his few soldiers had to fight against. And God gave him a promise that you're going to beat all of these people, but in the midst of running them off from the promised land and the things that I promised you, do not stop to pick up all of the gold and silver and trinkets that you see on the ground. That was it. Continue to run them off until I tell you to stop. Prophet Muhammad and his soldiers ran off the army, beat them. But the soldiers started picking up the gold chains and the trinkets and the jewelry. And when they took their energy and eyes off of what God demanded them to do, the soldiers looked back and saw that they weren't paying any attention, turned around and beat them and almost killed the prophet. That's what's happening with us. We're easily distracted. See, the minute we get a little power, all of the Eric Garners and all of these George Floyd and all of this stuff, Ahmaud Arbery, the minute we pick up some momentum, the distractions come. And we are so weak, always looking for a womb for the wrong reason. A man who is carrying his load should have several wombs. Make that plain to you. A man who is doing what he is supposed to do should have more than one woman. Y'all agree with that because you listen to King Charles, where he need one woman to hold him down, one woman to lift him up, and he got to have at least one woman that just don't give nothing. He had three. Can't have one woman. And y'all be dancing, one woman just to hold me down. So don't get upset with me about it. He ain't doing nothing but telling the truth. All right, we're closing. I want to make sure I went over everything. I saw an article on Instagram that was talking about nail salons and that how you put your hands under the nail machine, that radiation is going into your fingernails and is causing cancer in women. You won't stop using it because the LED lamps causing cancer in women, and everything is LED now. My son has his room lined with LED, where they're causing cancer cells to grow in the body. We talked about the Air Force. And I saw this article. It's a funny article. And I'm going to see if I can get it up for you because we got 7 more minutes. So I'm going to try to capture this screen real quick. If I can. Yes, I can. I'm going to allow it. And then I'm going to, there it is. You see that title? High sexuality, does cannabis make you gay? I told you they were going to put it in the marijuana. What does the term high sexuality mean? They're not going to let it show, but I'm going to read it. High sexuality is a term that surfaced around 2015 in reference to straight men who experience attraction to other men after having consumed cannabis. Since then, many different opinions have been formed about whether cannabis can make you gay or not. What cannabis does is it lowers your inhibition. So if you're with a dude and you get excited, yeah, you screw him. A lot of these tough guys around here screwing each other in the butt. But I got more respect for a gay person who says I'm gay than you hard rock dudes who having anal sex and giving and taking and acting like you wouldn't be involved with that. San Antonio Express News explains that this term is becoming increasingly popular as cannabis legalization continues to spread and ask important questions such as, has Amsterdam long known of the phenomenon but kept it a secret? Yes, Amsterdam did know about it. And Amsterdam is one of the most prolific pushers of homosexual sex and prolific pushers of marijuana, knowing what it will do, knowing how it changes the mindset, knowing how it hypersexualizes the men, slows down their inhibition, men and women. If you look at most shows, they're going to either smoke marijuana before or after sex. That's the gist of what was being shown in They Clone Tyrone with the powder. Something that makes us euphoric. And can you really be a high sexual, or as you just said, gay or bisexual? Cannabis and sexuality. What options do the general public hold? What opinions do the general public hold? You can look at that. But in that study, they did ask men how they feel after smoking marijuana. And through that study, they found that a lot of men, yeah, they would have sex with other men. It's not a guaranteed thing, but it's been studied and it has been proven. The Higher Education Center for Alcohol and Drug Misuse Prevention Recovery headlines: marijuana linked to increase in sex partners among lesbian, gay, and bisexual youth. A recent study examined marijuana use and sex habits of lesbian, gays, and bisexual. The key thing is the study. Youth and bisexual youth found that those who use marijuana were significantly more likely to engage in sex with multiple partners. The researchers were interested in this because sex with multiple partners is an important contribution factor for contracting sexually transmitted diseases, or STIs. The study included surveys of 694 youth in the National Longitude Study of Adolescence to Adult Health. The research examined the relationship between marijuana use and sex with multiple partners among adolescents and young adults. Researchers used generalized estimated equations, or GEE, logistics. Again, silent weapons for quiet wars used logistics. They're using logistics, regression, and analysis to look for relationships between reported drug use and sex between multiple partners. I think that's it. I want to thank you all for tuning into this. And I want to close with this in the 2 minutes that I have. I lived across town in Manning. In Manning, when the drug trade was heavy in the 80s, people came from Florida and they brought from Florida new guns, banana clips. They brought fearlessness in a sense, because the crosstown family had to get stronger to fight back. They brought disease and they brought destruction through drugs. They brought the crack. They did. And they brought AIDS. They did. We lost over 10 to 15 people from Sugar Hill to Crosstown from AIDS-related illnesses, untreated AIDS and untreated HIV that started with those Florida boys that came and took all of our women with them. All of these women that you see now, most of them in the church, were laid up under these Florida boys and opening up their legs, going in raw. And they contracted, and a lot of them died from it. That's social programming. That's social engineering. Many of you lost your mothers to AIDS, your fathers to AIDS, your uncles and loved ones and others to AIDS and social programming. And what was being presented on They Clone Tyrone. And you still take it as a joke, as a game. My caution to you, that God is not mocked. And when he takes the time to show you an example of what's happening and why, and you ignore that, then the consequences is on us. And calling on God is moot. He will not listen because we had an opportunity to do better. I thank you all for tuning in. Jamil Salib Zamir. This is the last part of this that I'm going to do. We'll be coming back to you with another commentary very soon. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so very much for tuning in to this month installment of the 19 Report. I am your host, Brother Johnny. I walked a thin line between right and wrong, took my fears to God, then I wrote this song. The spirit kept calling, so I answered the phone, and then I manned up and got some backbone. My mind resonates at a much higher tone, solid foundation, empire zone. 3 mountains, I'm in one, right to left counted, 9 and then 1, left to right switch it, 1 and then 9, west to east, south to north, a thin line. I know Christ exists, cause his mercy allows me a chance to stand 3 on a square. Yeah, we in there. This is Brother Johnny of Groove 19 Promotions.